I am losing sunlight, so we gotta go. Haley's gonna come in at some point and interrupt, but that's okay. I'm wearing a pink shirt. I didn't know if I should change. You know, the color of my shirt should not have any impact on the quality of the content of this video. I don't think the color of my shirt can save that at this juncture. I am excited to talk about today's video because today's topic is kind of adventurous. It was a lot of fun to experience firsthand. Today we're going to talk about the Blue Hole in Egypt off of the coast of the town called Dehab. Dehab is a coastal town, as you can imagine, in Egypt, and the Blue Hole is it's a hole, and they call it the Blue Hole because it's in the ocean and the ocean is blue. Essentially what it is a just giant hole in the middle of a reef. I didn't look it up. I probably could look it up right now, how it came to be. Let's see if we can find any information on the Blue Hole. Blue Hole, Egypt. The Blue Hole is located in the Red Sea. That's where the Blue Hole is. It is a submarine sinkhole with a maximum depth of just over 100 meters, which is 328 feet. Doesn't say how it was started, but yeah, it was a really cool location, and we got to go snorkeling there. So I am going to take you with me. I had my GoPro, I had my waterproof case, and you betcha, let's go look at some fishies in the famous Blue Hole in the Red Sea. Would you like to? Let's go snorkel. Snorkel team. Let's go snorkeling in the Blue Hole. Like I said, the Blue Hole is located in Dehab, which is a pretty chill coastal town. We stayed there at the end of our trip to Egypt. And we drove out to the snorkeling, and it was this pretty low-key area. There's a ton of restaurants and tourist shops, and there's this one tiny sign that says, "Go to the Blue Hole this way," which it just was so relaxed. The atmosphere, it very much felt like a come and go as you please. Like there wasn't a ton of infrastructure to it. It wasn't built out or anything. There weren't like directions, but our guide said, "Hey, if you want to do the full experience, walk off along the cliffs to a point, walk off to the point, get in the water there, and swim all the way back." Someone flushed the toilet. Someone's home. So that's why I like to do. And I took my little snorkel gear, and I took my little flip-flop, my little finnies, and I walked to the point. Getting into the ocean, there was no path. Like I said, there's no infrastructure, so there was no path. I basically just walked on the rocks, which was a bit sketchy. And then I found a place to kind of quickly put my fins on, and then I just literally jumped in. And it was very shallow along the rocks, so it was a little harrowing, but once I got out, it was breathtaking. The first thing I noticed was how quickly and massively the water drops off in depth. Like you literally, it's just a cliff. Like you're super shallow, there's all this rock, and then bam, there's nothing. There's just blue void. And that was a very impressive thing to see. So I slowly began to swim my way over to the Blue Hole, and along the way, I was just taking in the coral and the little fishies. It wasn't the most impressive reef, but I think what was so cool was seeing this like epic drop off. And along the way, I ran into these two little guys. These are barracuda. I was a little unsure what to do. I didn't know what their deal was at first, so I just kind of looked at them, and they looked at me, and I didn't know, like, do barracudas attack humans? I didn't think so, but I could see their teeth, and rest assured, they looked a lot bigger in person than they do on this footage. But I could see their little teeth, their little jagged, crooked teeth hanging out. So we just kind of looked at each other for a bit. I made some noises, and then they swam away. You know, the Blue Hole, you have to go inland to get there. So after a decent amount of swimming and checking out all of the lovely exterior, I made my trek inland, and it's very shallow. I've snorkeled a few times. I don't know what your snorkeling history is like. But they tell you right off the bat, don't touch anything. And they say that because if you touch coral, most likely it will die. Like, coral isn't meant to interact with humans, especially like, I don't know, maybe they were lying, but they were like, the oil in your skin will damage the coral and eventually kill it. And then also I was conditioned to fear what's called like fire coral. If you touch it, it stings you. So I'm naturally very averse to touching coral, but swimming in towards the blue hole, it was probably like 2 feet, 3 feet deep. And like, as the waves come in and out, like, it brings you higher and lower. And I was intimidated and uncomfortable swimming towards the blue hole because I was worried I was going to touch something, and A, I was going to kill it, or B, it was going to sting me and burn me. Spoiler alert, you can touch anything. This is Egypt. There's no, unfortunately, I'll talk about this more, there's no rules. You can touch and take photos and do anything. I mean, I jumped over the pyramids of Giza. Clearly, they don't care. As I made my way inland, suddenly it appeared, the blue hole. And like I said this earlier, there's no point in describing it to you because it is what it sounds like. Just a massive hole in the middle of a reef. And it was intimidating, and like, it kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable. Snorkeling is one of those things where it's like, a lot of people get freaked out the first time they do it. And it's not dangerous, but I think what freaks people out is like, it's a stimulus overload because you're entering this new world, basically. Not to get off on a tangent here, but the ocean is its own like world. If you think about it, like, there's so much mystery and unknown in the ocean. It covers 71% of the world, planet Earth. Think how much stuff there is under there we don't know. So I think that uncertainty makes kind of snorkeling a bit weird for first timers. But like, seeing that bottomless pit kind of brought up that sort of fear and uncertainty within me. I have to admit, I was a little uncomfortable. I think anytime I can see the bottom in the ocean, I'm totally cool, no worries. But when I can't see, that's when I'm like, I wonder what's down there. Like, there's probably some weird creature down there. I have no idea, and it's just gonna grab me and pull me straight down. But outside of that kind of menacing thought, it was a wonderful experience. And I swam kind of out into the middle of the blue hole, and there's not much there. It's just a giant pit. But I went over to the edges, and that's where I could see more marine life. There were a ton of fish. I found this little buddy. He was a pretty colorful fish, and the fish seemed pretty chill. Like, they didn't pay us much attention. So I just followed him as he ate off these rocks with these like really big, thick teeth. Like, you could see him like, and then he kind of got annoyed with me and swam away. Yeah, there weren't a ton of fish, but the few that were there were colorful. And afterwards, I'd say I was in the water for maybe not even 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. You just kind of swim to the shore and walk out and collect your things. And there were some steps you could walk up, and I headed back to the restaurant where we were kind of camped out at, and we had lunch and relaxed, and I took in the view, and nope. That was about all I needed to see of the blue hole, which was as advertised, blue and a big old hole. It's also crazy how like there's no rules. You can just go touch whatever. But I started out around that point and then snorkeled all along the edge, and then that's where the blue hole is, where everyone is. After lunch, I should back up, or maybe I shouldn't back up. I should keep going. But here's where the story gets interesting. It was after lunch that I noticed, on my way to the point, I passed this wall, and the wall was full of like plaques on it, and they were decorated and they were colorful, and I didn't know much. I didn't pay any attention to it because I was so focused on going snorkeling. But I started to see that people were taking pictures of it. So I walked over, and what I soon learned was that these were not plaques. These were memorials for people who had died at the Blue Hole. And as I read the inscriptions, I started to kind of appreciate the gravity of this place. So I didn't know this about the Blue Hole, but you can scuba dive in it. And apparently it's well renowned because there's a ton of caves and it's super technical. And unfortunately behind me, you can see a lot of people have died snorkeling or scuba diving this place. Like, I think it's like over 14, and those are their memorials there. And it's actually, I had no idea, it's like super famous for that. It's like very beautiful, but also very treacherous. I didn't know there were caves and all that stuff in there either, but apparently that's why. So if you do want to dive here, you have to be like very certified. It turns out the Blue Hole is one of the most dangerous diving sites in the world. It is estimated between 1 and 200 people have died scuba diving here. And that wall was full of memorials of some of the many people who had died. And I learned this after snorkeling there. And I bring that up because it definitely changed the context of that moment. Like, it has made me look back at that moment and kind of appreciate it a bit more. This place is just a mysterious place. Nobody knows why so many people have died here. They have a couple of theories, one of which is the depth, the intense depth, 330 feet deep. I mean, that's deep. There is an archway that people tend to dive down and go through, and it's just a giant cave, and a lot of people die trying to reach that arch, and they hypothesize that they get transfixed with the kind of beauty of it, and they lose track of time. There's also some currents. There's also low visibility, but they don't know why this is the deadliest place to scuba dive in the world, but it is. Looking back on it now, it was a very beautiful place, like clearly immensely beautiful. And there's something interesting about these places that are supremely beautiful, but also very deadly. It gives you this kind of eerie, haunting feeling. To be honest, it kind of reminded me of Mount Everest. People who are making their way to the summit of Mount Everest, the pathway you have to walk along, and in plain view are bodies of people who died on the mountain, and the bodies cannot be retrieved. And famously, they're kind of landmarks. And that must be a similar kind of reminder of the beauty of this place, but it's also extremely dangerous and deadly. And that dichotomy is very fascinating. There's something that's so eerie and haunting about a place being so beautiful and so dangerous and deadly. It almost becomes like a tomb, like an eerie, beautiful tomb. And there's been a lot of articles written about like how it calls divers to their death, and it's like very kind of poetic in a dark way. I'm glad I learned about it afterwards, because it would have freaked me out. And also, I didn't go scuba diving. I was snorkeling, just chilling on the top. It's completely safe to snorkel there. It is the scuba diving that is very dangerous. Walking past that memorial, I think, it definitely left an impression on me. I mean, there are some places that us humans are not meant to go. And reading some of those plaques, the messages were, touching and haunting and quite sad. And there were a lot of young people. And I learned about a story of a particular individual, and I wanted to go see his plaque, because you cannot talk about the Blue Hole without talking about Yuri Lipsky. Yuri Lipsky was a 22-year-old diving instructor. And in the year 2000, he went down to dive in the Blue Hole, and he brought a video camera with him. And his dive went wrong, and he never resurfaced. And a few days later, the family contracted. There's an individual whose sole purpose is to go dive for bodies in the Blue Hole. That's how he makes his living. He's a famous dude. His name's Tarek Omar. If you Google him, he comes up. There's a really interesting profile on him. He went down and he got Yuri's body and retrieved the camera. And it was upon resurfacing that they realized the camera was still working. And it captured all of the footage. And it is a haunting thing. And experiencing all of this added more context to this moment. It really makes you appreciate the beauty that there is in this natural world, but it makes you more so appreciate the power and the danger that rests within them. And I truly believe that there are some places the human race and human beings are not supposed to go. And we're dumb enough to think, well, you can't tell us what to do. So we go there anyway. And that storyline was very present at the Blue Hole. And then finally, it was a bit sad to see how overrun with humans this place was. Like I mentioned, there were no signs or regulations. Like, people were just stomping on the coral. I bet you at one point there was way more coral, and it just got killed out by everyone stepping on it and touching it and grabbing it. And If you make it to Egypt, I would strongly suggest going down and spending some time in Dehab. It's a very chill kind of beach town, some great views. We got to do some ATV riding in the canyons. That was pretty chill. So that's the Blue Hole. I hope you enjoyed your snorkel excursion with me. I know that I did. Yeah, maybe don't scuba dive in places that you're not supposed to scuba dive. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I'm not going to pass judgment on people who want to seek out, adrenaline or want to go to these crazy places and unique experiences. I mean, I jumped out of a plane over the pyramids of Giza. Who am I to talk? But it was a beautiful place. I remember my little fishy friend that I made that day. So yeah, that was snorkeling. This is it. We're getting to the end. I hope you've enjoyed. I don't know in which order people are watching these videos, but if you've been watching linearly, I hope you've enjoyed it thus far because we got one left. I will catch you later out there. I hope my pink shirt didn't distract you too much. All right. Stay classy. Bye-bye. The ocean is the toilet.